Hello there YouTube, it's your Webby3, back with another kicking graphic novel review. Been doing a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! And stuff, wanted to do something a little different. We got something fun from DC that I was very excited to learn existed. Wesley Dodds' The Sandman from 2023. Yes, you guys know I am a big Justice Society fan, and DC recently has been doing a lot of Justice Society stuff. They've been giving them some attention, which makes me really happy, because I am a huge Justice Society fan. And Sandman, I think, is a really underrated Justice Society member. Let me read you the back of the book. Wesley Dodds' dark dreams become the Sandman's waking nightmare. A stylish adventure of DC's new golden age sets Wesley Dodds, the original Sandman, in a race against time to keep his greatest inventions from falling into the wrong hands. It took Wesley Dodds years of testing and experimentation to perfect his sleep gas. I'm not smart. The perfect weapon for fighting crime without permanently harming criminals. Along the way, Dodds made other discoveries. Ones that were chilling in their potential for death and destruction. But when Dodds' secret journal is stolen, the Sandman must hunt down the thief and root out the shadowy figures pulling the strings. But can he solve the mystery before the contents of his journal are put to lethal use in a world on the brink of World War II? A Golden Age adventure like no other unfolds in Wesley Dodds' The Sandman, collecting the 6-issue Noir miniseries from writer Robert Venditti, who worked on Superman 78, and artist Riley Rossmo from Harley Quinn. I like Rossomo's art. Rossmo's art. I think I'm adding extra syllables in there. But sometimes the heads look a little weird to me. I don't know why, but it's great art, and I think it works really well for a pulp book, personally. I really do. Loving a new Golden Age. I love DC's Golden Age. I want to review actual Golden Age comics at some point. I'll get there. I have like some omnibuses and whatnot. But let's get into this. Sandman, super cool character. Very pulpy kind of character, which I really like. Just like Sandman, The Question, Batman. Really cool kind of stuff there, you know? If you like The Question and Batman, you will like Sandman here. But he uses his gas to put people to sleep, but it also gives them nightmares like he suffers from. He suffers from horrible night terrors, basically. And a lot of the time, his gas leads criminals to confess. It's not quite like Scarecrow gas or anything, you know. But he's having all these dreams, some of which seem prophetic, which is really interesting. Like, he dreams about the Justice Society before it's formed and whatnot. And when he was a kid, his father would tell him stories about World War I. Stories that a child should not be hearing, you know? And that was kind of the start of his night terrors. But in making this gas, he accidentally made a bunch of super deadly chemical weapons, like Geneva Convention-defying stuff. And like any good scientist, he wrote it all down. He probably should have burnt it. He doesn't burn it. So we all know what's going to happen, right? He's going to get Tower Babbled. He's going to get Tower Babbled. JLA style, right? So he goes, and he's going to sell his Sandman gas to the military. And the military's like, we don't want this. We want to kill our enemies. And they're like, dude, what do you think's going to happen when the enemy wakes up? They're going to start shooting again. Oh, what? You want us to arrest them? How are we going to hold thousands and thousands and thousands of soldiers? You're not thinking about this, Dodds. And that's almost like a good point in a weird way. I hate to say it because the guy is a huge dick. And also he's a man that just seems to want to kill his enemies. Like, he thinks everyone deserves it. And I'm not saying Nazis didn't deserve it, you know. They're Nazis. They deserved everything that came to them. But, you know, Dodds goes out for a night on the town with his lady, who is fucking kick ass, by the way. Like, actually incredible and amazing. You really gotta. Diane is her name. She's like, I think, the district attorney's daughter, which helps the Sandman in his investigation because she can get access to stuff, especially since this is like a time where all the men that work at the police station, they see her come in and they're like, oh, well, she's not going to get up to anything. A woman, she won't even look at the crime records, but she does. She's probably just as important as Sandman himself. They really do a great job of painting her as incredibly important. The Sandman could not function without her, physically or emotionally, honestly. Diane is incredible. Really, truly, truly she is. So Wesley decides to do some sand and manning up, and it turns out his house burns down in a burglary gone wrong, and the burglar, or at least one of the burglars, dies in this attempted robbery. But it's not an attempted robbery, because he, of course, doesn't show the police and the fire department his secret Sandman basement, but he goes down there, and while the basement isn't burnt up, the book is gone. The book has been stolen. It's out. And now there is an evil, black-clad Sandman running around. Now he has his own Reverse Flash. He has his own Bizarro. You know? Not grand. So he's going around interrogating people, trying to figure out who's done what here. And it's pretty rough on him. He finds it pretty rough. He goes to the coroner and finds out the identity of the dead man, but they do some great thanatological forensics work here. I was actually a mortician for a long time. I'm a thanatologist. That's what my degree is in. Sorry, I was going to brag a little more, but I decided not to. Anyway, they actually do some great detective work here, great coroner work. People tried to get me to run for coroner once, and I was like, hell no. Maybe when it pays more. But yeah, really, really incredible work here, talking about hemorrhaging of the eye capillaries that didn't have any, which means they were dead before they would have inhaled any smoke. The body is undamaged other than the burns, which means they weren't thrashing about trying to put a fire out or anything like that, you know? My cat's on the table. She's going to knock stuff off. She knows she's not allowed to be up there, but I'm kind of talking and doing this, so she's not getting attention, and that's making her upset, even though it's 11 p.m., go to bed. That's what I should be saying to myself. And also, they do end up identifying this dead man, and he is a guy that has a criminal record for robbery. But here's the thing. His record is really just one instance where he stole from the military, and that's it. He went straight. He had a family. It's very odd that he would have just turned back, seemingly when he was doing well, just to die in this fire. How odd. It's almost like he was being blackmailed by somebody. Isn't that interesting? Huh. So then, Dodds finally gets into a battle with this dark Sandman that he seems to have accidentally led to the creation of, because the thief was only supposed to steal the book with the formulas. But they saw the Sandman gear, and they were like, oh, hell yeah. And now they're being called the Fog, which is a really cool name for a pulp villain like this, I have to say. It's pretty awesome. But he's just, he actually is very shadow-coated. He looks a lot just like the Shadow in a gas mask, almost, but without the scarf. It's more interior lined red. But he pulls off Dodds' mask and gives Sandman a taste of his own medicine. Literally. And I love the art here, how, like, the gas, you see the molecules floating in it, and it takes the shape of the Grim Reaper. Wesley Dodds, it makes the gas, it's not a fear gas, like Scarecrow, like I said, remember? But it turns out It's a guilt gas. Which is incredible. A guilt gas. It makes his enemies see every bad thing they've ever done to anyone from that other person's perspective. It forces empathy upon people. It makes you feel guilty. And we see some not great stuff that Wesley Dodds has done. He's been a dick to a lot of people. He's used some women and whatnot. I mean, he was a rich boy. You know, a lot of these pulp heroes are rich boys. So, it's not great. He's been quite a big dick, but he also starts seeing his more future-esque visions again. Visions of World War II, the atomic bombs, the Justice Society. One of those is a good thing. But he does wake up 2 days later. Dude got some serious inhaling. And he goes to confront a family friend, a friend of his father's. They were like in the military and stuff together. They fought in the First Great War together. And he's like, I don't think this guy could have known about my place if it wasn't him. I think it's him. And he goes in, and then the actual fog is strangling him, trying to kill him. And Dodds thinks it's because of him. As an audience member, as a reader, this is such a clear red herring, I have to say. It's a very clear red herring. But Dodds fights this guy, who has been unmasked. We see him, and he's not a familiar character. To be honest, when he was first unmasked, I was like, oh, he's going to be that jerk military guy who wants the secrets. And it wasn't him. It was unmasked, and it was just a thief. There's clearly a conspiracy here, but this guy isn't the guy that I thought it would be. But Dodds fights him. He falls out a window after Diane shoots his ass. Diane is so cool. She's the best, and I love her. God, she kicks ass, but he does end up dying and whatnot. Dodds is hailed as a hero. He doesn't feel like a hero because someone died. But the thing about Wesley Dodds' Sandman, at least this version of him, is that he is very much a pacifist. Whenever he does physical harm to someone, like with his fists or something, it's more because he can't avoid it. He prefers to let his gas do the work. But that does mean he doesn't have a lot of fighting experience. It means he doesn't have a lot in the way of training. His gas does most of the work. So without the gas, like when your villain is wearing a gas mask or you're fighting in your civilian form, it can be very hard for you to stand up to things, which is why it's great that your girlfriend is fantastic with a gun. But then Dodds ends up having to commit treason. He sneaks into a military compound where he really wishes he had better training after this. I guarantee that. And he confronts the military guy that I thought would end up being the Fog, who was not the Fog. He's also kind of drawn in a weird way. He does have one arm. He clearly lost an arm in a previous war. But the way it's drawn is odd. The base of it is way larger than the base of his other arm. And it's like, was this arm 4 times as thick as the other arm before it got amputated or blown off or whatever? I doubt that. It's very odd that the nub is so wide. But it looks different in a lot of art. Like, later in another page, it actually looks pretty natural. It looks like it should. But then in the earlier pages, it doesn't. It's almost like the artist kind of realized that maybe they hadn't drawn it the best, but they couldn't go back, so in future pages they kind of just fixed it. It's kind of odd, but then it starts to look weird again, so I don't know. Anyways, it turns out this military guy did hire that thief to get it, and it turns out that, as we see, remember, this is happening before World War II. I think this is happening in 1940. So I think right now, at the time of this, the war is already in motion, but the U.S. is not in the war. That's what's happening right now. World War II is in motion. The United States has not yet entered. Pearl Harbor hasn't happened, I think. So, not everyone has a recording device in their pocket all the time. So this guy does not realize that there is a record recording him. So when the police show up, his confession to war crimes is playing, which is pretty insane. And it turns out this guy does not know Wesley Dodds is the Sandman. The thief did not reveal that info to him, nor did Dodds' family friend, who does in fact know that he is the Sandman. Yeah, not great, not wonderful. He didn't want to hurt Dodds. He didn't really, but he did want Dodds's horrible, horrible experiments, because to create that gas, they were right to assume that a lot of experimentation might accidentally lead to deadlier gas. So he and the other military guy were in on it. It's not great. His name is Wheeler Vanderlyle. And he's another character where it's like, he's too good to Wesley the entire book. So the whole time you're just like, all right, when's this shoe gonna drop? When's he gonna be evil? So I felt like even with the mystery and the big red herring and everything, I feel like the two big villains of this book really were obvious. It's not great. Also, Dodds almost dies again. This man cannot win a fist fight. He can't. He's too much of a pacifist. He has no training. He doesn't have the will to win a fist fight. So his girlfriend has to show up and shoot the bad guy again. It's kind of insane. Anyway, eventually, his girlfriend, Miss Belmont, after they start to rebuild his home, brings over her nephew, Sandy Hawkins. If you're a big Justice Society fan, you might recognize the name Sandy Hawkins. He will eventually grow up to be the next Sandman. But, you know, we see Wesley kind of get called to his back door, and behind his house are some characters, you know, characters nobody's ever heard of, like Green Lantern, The Flash, Dr. Fate. This would, of course, be Alan Scott and Jay Garrick, Green Lantern and Flash. But we also have the Spectre, Johnny Thunder, Hawkman, Hourman. They're building the Justice Society, and they want him in. And that's where it ends. Very fun. I really enjoyed Wesley Dodds' The Sandman from 2023. I cannot wait to read Jay Garrick Flash and Alan Scott Green Lantern. I really can't. There's also a question series going on right now. At the time of recording this, it's not in trade form. It's only a couple issues in. But when this is out, it might be in trade form. And I'll be reading that as soon as possible. I love the question. He's very underrated. So yeah, Wesley Dodds' The Sandman, I think, is a great book if you love the Justice Society, the Golden Age of DC, if you love kind of pulpish heroes, vigilante-style heroes that don't really have powers. I guess he kind of has prophetic visions, but oh well. He's very, very cool. I love Wesley Dodds' Sandman. McFarlane, action figure win. I'm going to look like a fool if one exists when this comes out, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put money on it. But that is it. Thank you all very much for your support. Remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out all the cool links in the description below. Facebook, Twitter, etc. as in And I will see you all next time. Bye for now.